What's up, it's Jan back at it again with another nerdy bookish video. This is gonna be my April wrap-up. Hello. I was about to fall asleep and take a nap, but I was like, gotta film this. It is currently May 8th, so it's time. My hair is just being weird. I don't know what's going on, but I love my Chilling Adventures of Sabrina shirt that I got the day that Joey's car was stolen. We went to TJ Maxx to find something to sleep in. This is what I found. It's so cute. It's a men's shirt. If you're new here, I do all my wrap-ups in the reread, rewrite, burn tag format. It's technically a book tag, but I made it into my wrap-ups like, I don't know, 2-3 years ago. Basically, I have all of the titles that I read in the month of April in this handy dandy skull, and I just pick out 3 at a time and say whether I would reread, rewrite, or burn the books. Let's just go right into the recap portion, which usually takes the longest. So in April, I read 24 books, which for me feels like not a lot. It was also one of the shittiest mental health months ever, and I feel like there was just something in the air. I mean, the total solar eclipse was happening, so that messed with everyone's energies. I know that sounds woo-woo, but like truly, there's something there, okay? And just a bunch of life things happened that I'm never gonna talk about online. Just know that they happened. I don't know. Anyway, all the mental stuff definitely affected my reading. I still read 100 pages every single day. I'm pretty sure maybe I missed like one. I wanna say I missed April 20th, 44 pages. That was a concert day. That was the day I filmed with Christine in the morning. We filmed our Q&A, my collab with Christine Snaps. If you missed it, I'll have it linked down below. That same night we went to a concert, so 44 pages, but all the other days I read way more than 100 pages, some of the days too. 24 books is still good. As long as I cross 20, I'm usually happy, but I try to average like a book every day because I do have weekends where I just have my weekend readathon for Patreon, so I try to get a few books in for those readathons, so it just like balances out to about a book a day. So when it's anything less, I'm like, terrible reading month, but it really wasn't. Anyway, all that to say, 24 books in April. Those 100 plus pages a day are my physical pages typically. Unless I'm in a readathon or a reading challenge, then I do try to calculate the percentages of audiobooks. I do have Storygraph now, and I heard that calculates the percentage to pages, but I'm still getting used to it and not really using it that much. But anyway, the physical pages that I read in April, give or take a few, 7,044 pages. Number of BIPOC authors was 14 out of the 24, which is stunning. Stunning for me. The best book, it's honestly pretty tied. It's just one was way more fast-paced and I read it in one sitting versus the other where it was super relatable in the quotes, and the epilogue was what made it my favorite book of the month. I'm just gonna say it pretty much tied, but if I had to choose, like emotionally, no, because if I had to choose, I would say This Is Where We Talk Things Out by Caitlin Marceau. I read it on my Kindle. I just randomly picked it up because I've been seeing it all over Bookstagram for months and months and months. And I was like, I just want to sit on my balcony and read this in one sitting. And that I did, my dudes. I am working on my cramming vlog right now, so hopefully that's up before this, and then you could see all my full thoughts and reactions in that vlog. So if it is up before this, I'll have it linked down below. It's a really short thriller about a toxic mother-daughter relationship, and they go on this getaway vacation together and shit goes down. And I don't want to get into it too much, but it's a really fast-paced thriller. There are quotes about parental pressures when it comes to like what to do with your life, like, you know, if you want kids, what you're gonna do for a living, who you're with, etc. There's a lot of those discussions, so I really appreciated that as well because a lot of it was relatable in terms of like societal pressures and also from my own mother as well when I was younger. The other one that I guess I'll elaborate on later was My Husband by Maud Ventura. I'll link my vlog on this down below as well. I feel like I've talked everyone's ears off about this book already, but yeah, both were 5 stars. It was really hard to pick my best book. My worst book was pretty fucking easy. I'm actually gonna unhaul this right after filming this, The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I read this for episode 3 of Do Your Worst, where I read Brie from Locked Booktician's worst books. So again, I'll link that down below for full thoughts. I cook in that vlog, and if y'all know me, when I say I'm bad at cooking or I don't cook, I'm not exaggerating. People were like shocked how bad it was. So I'll link that down below. This came out in 2020, and I remember it blowing up the internet, and everyone was obsessed with this thriller, everyone was obsessed with the twist, and I just put it off because I was like, I'm sick of all these and then there were none retellings, and that's how I feel to this day. I realized after this that it was probably the wedding setting that I don't like. I feel like a lot of these plot points were cliche. I feel like all of the characters were one-dimensional, they were boring to read about, The twist didn't do anything for me. I was just annoyed the whole time reading this, and I gave this 1 star. Maybe, like I said in my vlog, if I haven't read as many thrillers as I do, or as many and then there were none retellings as I have, then maybe this would have been a little bit higher, but there's no way this would have been like a 4 or 5. There's no way. That was the worst book. The next category is my nonfiction book of the month. For April, I read Hereafter by Amy Lynn. This is a memoir about her husband, her late husband, who died while he was away running a marathon, and she just tells us what she's learned in therapy on how to grieve and how to cope with things and what she did in general, like just from personal choices and stuff. I mean, it's told in like vignettes, so a lot of negative space. I tabbed a shit ton because a lot of it was heartbreaking to read, but also like how fiercely she loved. A lot of that was just like powerful to read and relatable as well. So I really enjoyed this one. 5 stars. I'm glad I purchased it so I can look back because it is a beautifully written memoir, a heart-wrenching one as well. The next one is Buzzwordathon for Kayla from Books and Lala's annual reading challenge, where she picks like a category or a word that you look for in the titles of books you read. I usually try to read at least 1 a month, and this month it was nature words, like tangible nature words, and I read When the Mockingbird Sings by Stuart Bray and Jason Nickey. I read this with Joey for our Unmuted and Unhinged sprints, which is an exclusive Patreon perk, where we read extreme horror/horror novellas live. We live react, we stay unmuted, we have a little bit of ambiance in the background, and y'all could just see us live react. Y'all could read with us or treat it as regular sprints. But yeah, Patreon link is down below with all the other perks. This particular one is for all tiers, so there's that FYI for y'all. This actually competed with the guest list for worst book. Now listen, we've been doing Unmuted and Unhinged sprints for almost 2 years now, so I have quite a few extreme horror novellas under my belt, and I have given more than a handful 5 stars. I've read some nasty shit, okay, and I've given them 5 stars. This was just poorly written. There were some unnecessarily problematic words and phrases used. It just threw me off. It didn't add anything to the story. Not that, you know, you need problematic shit to add to the story, but you know, sometimes it's like it shows how shitty this character is and blah 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 blah. But we already knew how shitty these characters were. We didn't need all those slurs and shit, you know what I mean? But I also gave this 1 star, hence why it competed with the guest list. I don't even want to talk about what this is about. Just check trigger warnings before you read it if you were any type of interested in this. I do love the cover, but it's a very short novella, so anything said would probably like just give away the whole book, but I'm sure the content warnings would tell you a good amount about it. Okay, the next goals that I have every single month are Kindle books. So I try to utilize my Kindle. Now I got a new one as well, so I want to use it even more. I do have the Kindle Unlimited subscription. I got a new one because if y'all haven't heard yet, Joey's car got stolen and my Kindle was in there, so I had to replace it. And I read 4 books on my Kindle. One was this one. I usually get Joey a physical copy for our sprints, and then I read it on Kindle. Then I read A Bump in Boo Hail by Kimberly Lemming. This is the novella that you're supposed to read after the second book in the Mead Mishap series, which is the That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon series. I gave it 2 stars, I believe. The first chapter made me think it was gonna be like 3 or 4 stars, and then it was just boring. It was a short story. It was so quick that, again, like if I say anything, it'll give things away, but it takes place during Halloween season, and people just like scared each other throughout the whole book. There's a sex scene in it, and then it was like lame scares that weren't really scares. So there's that. It was just a little story. It's whatever. It didn't do anything for me. And then I also read The Arc for So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison, which was also my arc of the month because I try to read at least 1 arc per month to up my NetGalley score. I gave So Thirsty 3 stars, unfortunately. There were a couple scenes that were really strong. There was this old lady involved, and that's all I'm gonna say about that. I love those scenes. I did love the bloody vampire scenes. It took a while to meet the vampires. My main thing was that, this is gonna sound so stupid, but the friendship wasn't toxic enough. I like female friendships in books if there's something wrong, like if it's an obsession story or if they're just like toxic for each other or just something something wrong. Like, I don't know, especially in a horror, I feel like there should have been something off. But Rachel Harrison is known for writing positive female friendships. But even in Cackle, there was something like off about that friendship, you know? So I wanted something like that. But instead I got a ride or die bitch, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'm still excited for its release though in September, I believe. And I do still want a physical copy to add to my Rachel Harrison collection because she is one of my favorite authors of all time. And then This Is Where We Talk Things Out was also on my Kindle. One of my loose monthly goals is reading a 500+ page book every month, and this month I read 2. One was a reread. I also try to reread at least one book a month, but that's also super loose. By loose goal, I mean like I won't get mad if I don't complete it. My reread / first 500+ page book was Uzumaki. This is the first time I read this copy from one of my patrons, Amanda. Thank you so much. But the first time I read it, I read them in like separate volumes. It's still all averaged to 5 stars. I love this story. It's about this town that's contaminated with spirals. Like there are swirls everywhere and it drives people nuts, basically. There are snails involved and it's just a wild ride. Even though it was a reread, it still had my jaw in hell at some points. Like Junji Ito, I love him so much. Easy 5 stars. And then my other chonker was Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher, which I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed the romance in this. I just didn't feel as connected to the couple as in the Dreamland Billionaires series. I mean, even in the fine print, I feel like I felt more connected to them than this couple for some reason. I don't know if it was just like the change in setting. I don't know. I also didn't really like the plot with like the mom arranged for them to work on this project together to like redesign this house, hence the title. But I mean, this was honestly one of the most forgettable by Lauren Asher that I've read so far. I finished the Dreamland Billionaire series and I am excited to continue this, but I mean, I enjoyed it. Obviously, I gave it 4 stars, but I don't know. I think about it and I'm like, what did I love about this? I remember the guy was super caring and just considerate over the girl. I think I liked the sex scenes in this one. Can't really remember much, so I'll link my vlog down below. And then lastly, oh, well, since I didn't read a classic this month, I also try to read at least one either Book of the Month book or Aardvark book. And this month I decided on Aardvark and I read The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson. Aardvark and I have a little partnership, so I try to stay on top of the books that they send me and not let it get too out of control. I gave this one 3 stars. I was really enjoying it for the majority of it until some of the sex scenes, like the alpha knot thing. And then on top of that, he said good girl a couple times and like he was like, call me alpha. But other than that, I really enjoyed the 2 characters. They're both shapeshifters. They're both werewolves. They both work in the ER. So there was no problem with like understanding each other's schedules, one working too much, etc., etc. They were just making it work. They fake date, as you can probably tell from the title. The woman has this like quirky grandma who's rooting for her and her love life. And I liked their banter. I liked their personalities being kind of opposite. And then when they start falling for each other, like for real, I just love that moment in fake dating books. But usually fake dating is hit or miss for me, and I feel like this one's a little bit leaning more towards a miss, but I enjoyed the audiobook as well. Okay, wow. See, I told you the recap takes so freaking long. All right, now time for the actual wrap up. Let's pick our first 3. My trash really smells. I'm gonna take that out soon. And by me, I mean Joey. So first we have Thirst by Marina Y. Never know how to say that last name. I am so sorry. Oh, I also read Expiration Dates from Aardvark, and I gave this one 4 stars. I've talked about this many a time, but every time she meets a guy, she gets a piece of paper one way or another saying how much time they have together, and then they inevitably break up after said time. And so it's like interesting, kind of riveting to see how she handles this situation and who she was going to end up with. So that's another Aardvark book I read, and I finished this in my cramming vlog, so again, will be linked down below. And then The Prince and the Dressmaker. Sorry, I don't have a physical copy. That was a library book. I think I would, I would reread Expiration Dates. I would reread it physically because I listened to it audibly for the most part. I followed along around the second half. There were a lot of good quotes. Rebecca Searle is a pretty good writer when she has those generic but good quotes, you know? Generic as in like it talks about love, life, like nothing too specific. specific to the character's circumstances, so it makes it more relatable, like universally, if that makes sense. So I would reread this. I really enjoyed the romance in this and hearing about all the guys that she was with and how much time they had. I was captivated the entire time. I was coloring while I was reading this at some point. Had a good time with that. I would rewrite Thirst. I got the idea from Riley Marie, of rewriting this to switch the two parts. So the first half was the better part in my opinion. It was reminiscent of A Dowry of Blood. It had really good poetic prose and it followed our vampire. And then the second half followed our human, and it was like drier writing style and like in letter format. I don't know. I feel like it would have captivated me more if it was switched, and it would have led up to the more intense vampire scenes at the end, because it kind of lost me at the end. That's why I gave this one 4 stars as opposed to 5. But if it was just the first half, this would have been 5 stars. Yeah, I just left little bite marks on the cover. And thank you to Destiny and I believe Tiffany for recommending this book to me. Those are 2 of my patrons, so thank you, because I really enjoyed that. And then I would burn The Prince and the Dressmaker, just because, I mean, although I loved it, I actually gave that 5 stars. It's a graphic novel. There are plenty out there. I'm okay with not rereading that. It was a pretty memorable story about this prince and his dressmaker who were like in cahoots, because his little secret is that he, well, I guess it was a big secret, is that he liked to wear dresses and only the dressmaker and his bodyguard knew. So she would make dresses for him and he would go out and about in them. Inevitably someone found out and it went around, and yeah, but it was a cute art style. It was a cute story. I really enjoyed it. Next 3, we have Happiness Volume 1, which is a manga, The Guest List by Lucy Foley, and oh god, When the Mockingbird Sings. Okay, I would probably burn this. I already talked about that. Even though this was my worst book of the month, I think I could rewrite this and it could still be better. I don't know, just flesh out the characters more is my main thing, because I read Dead of Winter by Darcy Coates. That was also an And Then There Were None retelling, just in a different setting and more interesting characters. If the characters weren't so boring, this could have been fun. I could have stayed engaged, could have been maybe 3 stars. So if we rewrote this, that would be grand. And then Happiness Volume 1, I would reread. I gave it 4 stars. I had no idea going into this that it was a vampire story. I just kind of went into it blindly because I read it for that Brie video. It was great. I'm definitely continuing with the series. I just read Volume 2 a few days ago. We're gonna keep it going. Hopefully I stick with this series because I have DNF'd a couple manga series recently. Okay, next 3. We're moving along pretty quickly. So first one is The Fake Mate by Lana Ferguson, So Let Them Burn by Camila Cole, and A Bump in Boohale by Kimberly Lemming. Okay, so I would burn A Bump in Boohale because I already talked about it. 2 stars. God, these were also mediocre. I would reread The Fake Mate actually because it was a fun time. Maybe I would read it physically and it'd be better than listening to those sex scenes audibly, and then I could just like skim the sex scenes. And then I would rewrite So Let Them Burn. Okay, I will link the live show with Tatiana down below because I don't really feel like saying everything again because I already made a spoiler-filled reading vlog for my patrons, so I just feel like a broken record at this point. But essentially the writing was, I mean, it's a debut. Her writing will evolve, I'm sure. There was a lot of redundancy. There were a few plot issues. I feel like there were some plot holes. I feel like the characters could have been done better because our main character, her one personality trait was that she's a good liar, and then there's a male character who loves to read and that's his only personality trait as well. But there's a sister dynamic in here. There's some magic that didn't really go anywhere, but it is going to be a series, so maybe it's going to be more explained and developed in the next books. But am I going to read the next book? No. The dragons were okay. I'm kind of sick of the bonded with dragons trope, but it is what it is. I really liked these machines that they build called drakes. I liked that storyline because her sister was trying to be a pilot for one of these machines, but those are brief too. And there's a lot of politics in this as well. There's commentary on colonization, and there's an unnecessary romance. I gave this 2 stars. And that was my book club pick, if that wasn't clear from the fact that I had a live show on it. Next we have A Curious Beginning by Deanna Rayborn. I finally finished this month, or last month. Where Sleeping Girls Lie by Farida Abike Iyamide. This was my Lair Bloody read, so we had a discussion on it with my patrons. And lastly we have Love Redesigned by Lauren Asher. Okay, shit. I really enjoyed all these books. Okay, damn it. I would reread A Curious Beginning because I just know I missed a a lot when I only listened to it on audio, because there were some times where I was driving and I just put the audiobook on. I just know there are some like jokes that I missed or like banter that I would want to revisit. There are a lot of good quotes and moments between Veronica and Stoker that I'd want to highlight. So yeah, this is a cozy mystery, and it's set in Victorian London, 1887, and there's a lepidopterist, a butterfly expert named Veronica, who we follow, and she goes on this trip with this guy named Stoker, and they try to solve some shit, and then there's a twist about Veronica somewhere in this story, which I loved, and I gave this 4 stars. It took me a while to finish this just because it was intimidating, honestly, with all the big vocabulary words. Like, this is the most sophisticated banter I've ever read, and it's great. It's so entertaining. The audiobook is phenomenal. I think if I do reread it, I read it physically for sure. I think I'd rewrite Love Redesigned. Usually for chunky romances, I'm like, oh, maybe this could have been shorter, but I feel like it was a good pace. Did it end in pregnancy? Because that's always... Oh wait, no, this one didn't end in pregnancy. They do talk about kids quite a lot, so I can just like take that out. I can just take that out. That's an easy fix. And then sadly, I would burn Where Sleeping Girls Lie. I gave this one 3 stars. I liked it for the most part. I feel bad because I know this is her more personal work compared to Ace of Spades, and it is very dark, very personal, very important subject matter. It's just definitely a little too long and not unique. And I hate saying that because that's not why you should read this. Like, you shouldn't go into this thinking it's gonna be unique. I just had other expectations. I wanted it to go a different direction. I wanted like supernatural things to go on, but I guess I didn't take into account that this could be like a lot more realistic than I wanted just for that moment and going into this book. But it is really well written. It's a good mystery, a YA mystery. Also, the font is disgustingly small, so there's that. It felt a lot longer than it needed to be. It was a slow start, but I really enjoyed the parts that were adjacent to Mean Girls. In my vlog, I said it was Mean Girls, but make it a more diverse cast in mystery form. You'll know when you read it. There are moments like, I'll just refer you back to my cramming vlog again, which will be linked, because I say like direct quotes that correlate with Mean Girls, and it was just so entertaining to see. I really also liked Baz in this book. Like, he was probably my favorite character. The twists and reveals could have been better, but also if you've read or seen the movie Luckiest Girl Alive, the one with Mila Kunis, this is very similar. Those dark topics, there's SA. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. I just wouldn't reread this, I don't think, but I will keep it on my shelves because it's pretty and it's an important story and it's attached to good memories because it was a buddy read with my Patreon. All right. Oh, no, spilled. Okay, next we have a graphic novel from the library that I read called If You'll Have Me. We have XOXO by Axie O, and then Hereafter by Amy Lynn. So this I will absolutely reread. Absolutely, like hands down. I think If You'll Have Me, I would rewrite because I don't want to burn it, but like hard to rewrite a graphic novel. I don't know. I really love the art style of this. I gave If You'll Have Me 4 stars. I read it during my like little 24-hour lighthearted readathon that I did with myself within another vlog. I'll link that down below. I really enjoyed the art style. I think I would rewrite it to take out this one scene that really pissed me off, and it involves a video game. So let's just keep it at that. And then XOXO, I gave 3 stars. This was the first book I read in April, and I read it via audio only, and I would burn it because it wasn't anything special. It was cute, don't get me wrong, but y'all know how I feel about YA contemporary, especially YA romances nowadays. Like, it's just, if I want like easy breezy listening. This one was cute because her and her mom traveled to Korea, and there's this whole thing with a K-pop star, and it was a cute ending. It was a cute romance. It was just kind of whatever. I would never reread it. I'll probably eventually read ASAP, which is the companion novel, I think. Next we have That Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion at a Werewolf by Kimberly Lemming. That's the second Mead Mishaps book. We have So Thirsty by Rachel Harrison, and then we have My Husband by Maud Ventura. Absolutely would reread this. Okay, this is an obsession story. It's slow burn. It's a psychological thriller, like purely psychological. Love it. Love the epilogue. That's all I'm gonna say because I don't want to give too much away. So Thirsty, I would rewrite and make it a toxic friendship because I am fucked in the head. And then I would burn this. I gave this 2 stars. I hated the sex scenes. Werewolf romances, I've come to the conclusion, are not for me. I just can't believe I read like 3 werewolf romances within a very short amount of time because I read Bride in March as well. And I just didn't really like any of them. I'm gonna stray away as much as possible. Yeah, those were 3. Wow, that was easy. Give me the easy button because that was easy. Okay, we've got Uzumaki by Junji Ito. This is where we talk things out. Night Watching by Tracy something. I almost said Dion, but that's Legendborn. Is it even Tracy? I don't even know. Oh no, 2 5-star books. Fuck. Okay, so obviously, maybe not obvious, but Night Watching is the one I would burn. I gave it 3 stars. I read it for the Literally Dead book club, which is Kayla's book club. I didn't even go to the live show. Tracy Sierra. There we go. Good job, brain. I was hooked from the beginning. I really enjoyed it. It's a thriller about this mom who has to like hide her kids because there's a home invasion and she ends up knowing the guy who broke into her house. But I just like couldn't picture this house. Not that I could picture things anyway, but like usually if it's like a real world thing, I could picture a house, but I couldn't. And there was this diaper scene that was so uncalled for, but I was intrigued for like the first half and then it lost me. I literally had to ask one of my patrons to spoil the entire thing for me at the end because I was like, what the fuck just happened? Like I genuinely am confused in the worst way. And it was dumb. I wasn't a fan of the second half. I wasn't a fan of how things were handled. The timelines were okay. Like I think that was decently done with like flashing back to figuring out who the guy was and blah 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 blah. But yeah, I'm just gonna move on because I have to make a tough ass decision. This might have to be a cop-out answer because okay, I would reread Uzumaki. Hands down, I would reread it. This is where we talk things out. I would rewrite it to make it longer. I know, I hate when I do that too, but it's a valid answer, okay? I'd make it longer. It was a fun story. I think it was perfect the way it is, but because I had so much fun with it, I wouldn't have complained if it were any longer. Cheat of an answer. Oh, I love when we have an even number. Like we have an even 8 rounds. No wild cards needed. Okay, so we have The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties by Jessie Q. Satanto. We've got Eileen by Otessa Moshfegh, which also competed for Worst Book of the Month. And Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shannon McGuire. I hated like all of these. Beneath the Sugar Sky I'd probably reread because there were some decent quotes in that. It was short. I would reread it if I needed refreshers for like the series. I have decided that I am continuing despite me hating the first 2 books because I listened to the audiobooks. But I read Beneath the Sugar Sky physically and it was totally fine. I had a fun time. And again, I read this for the Do Your Worst episode with Brie and I gave this 3 stars. This is the 3rd book in the Wayward Children series, if you were wondering. I would rewrite Eileen, take out all the freaking homophobic parts, the fatphobic parts, the problematic parts. I gave this 2 stars. Oh no, I gave it 1 star. I thought I gave it 2 stars because I did relate to some lines in this and I enjoyed the intrusive thoughts that our main character had sometimes, but I just had to 1 star it for all the problematic issues. But if those didn't exist, this could have been, shoulda, woulda, coulda been a good book. And then The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties, I gave 2 stars. This is the last book in the Aunties series. Dial A for Aunties was the first book. This one just, I would burn because Wait, what was the first one? Oh, Beneath the Sugar Sky I would reread, and then that one rewrite, and then burn The Good, the Bad, and the Aunties because it was so boring. And I really wished this one thing from the second book didn't carry over to the 3rd book. And the main character got really annoying in this one. She was just very like envious of her family liking her husband. She was like, of course the golden boy Nathan, blah 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 blah. I'm like, dude, don't you want that? Like, I'm confused. Like, it was entertaining because she and her husband honeymooned and then traveled to Jakarta to hang out with her family, and I love her aunties. Her aunties carry this entire series, okay? Which is the point. But the mystery aspect in this, I couldn't even tell you. If anyone died, I couldn't even tell you what the fuck the resolution was. I just know in the end, it ended in a way that I hate, and it involved familial pressures and the main character falling into them, and just yeah, so I would burn that. I don't even want to talk about it. It's over. I'm glad I got it from the library. That series is done. Ooh, did I put it on my series finished for for 2024. Okay, that is all. That's all I got. Let me know if you've read any of these, if you agree with my thoughts, disagree with my thoughts, but be nice to me. I'm a Cancer, as my friend Jayla would say. But yeah, comment down below any of your thoughts about any of these books. If you made it to the end of this video, oh my god, put the snail emoji in the comments down below. There's a snail emoji, right? There's gotta be, to represent Uzumaki. Thank you so much for watching. Hope y'all had a vampy day. Don't forget to do some self-care, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!